Hey there guys, I'm Luke, and this is something that I don't really do on my channel very often, but I want to do a little bit more of it because I really enjoy making this sort of content. And I've had a thought recently that if I don't enjoy the content I'm making on my channel, then what's the point of doing it? So, you're not going to see anything disappear. There'll still be Easter eggs, guides, that kind of thing, because I do enjoy them. But certain other stuff, like the current Call of Duty Exo Zombies guides, I'm just not enjoying them. I don't want to do them, and I don't want to force myself to do them, so I'm not. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was Star Wars Battlefront, the new game which DICE and EA, isn't it, are creating. And I wanted to talk about whether I trust it or not. Now, there's been a lot of controversy on the internet recently, which there always is, but this time specifically about Star Wars Battlefront, and whether or not it's going to live up to the old games, or just be some kind of Battlefield knockoff. Whereas I don't doubt that it will have some similarities to Battlefield, I feel that's just inevitable with DICE's credentials. I'm unsure whether or not it's going to live up to the past games, because Star Wars Battlefront was one of the earliest games I ever played. In fact, it might have been the earliest console game. I had a Game Boy and stuff, but let's not get into that right now. So, the original Star Wars Battlefront. So, I've pretty much played these games since the first one. It was really good, and to be honest, this new game sounds most like the original. No space, focus on infantry combat, just that sort of thing. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of pushed the boat, and it made for one of the best games I've ever played. And I actually recently bought it on Steam, which is the footage you're watching on screen at the minute if you are watching it. Otherwise you could just listen to this, I guess, in the background, because you don't really need to see anything, you're just listening to me. Anyway, I'll shut up now because I'll need to carry on. So Star Wars Battlefront 2 was pretty much the pinnacle of the Battlefront series for me. I'd always hoped after that there would be a Battlefront 3, and after that they had a couple of others. Renegade Squadron and Elite Squadron were two games that I played on the PlayStation Portable. I also played Battlefront 2 on the PlayStation Portable, but I started on the PlayStation 2. And they were quite fun. I remember one of them, I can't remember which, actually had the feature where you could be on ground doing combat, get in a spaceship and fly to space. I remember that was flipping incredible at the time. I was like, yes, whatever Star Wars Battlefront 3 is, whenever it comes out, how is that not going to be in it? And then we find out that there's going to be no space battles whatsoever, which is kind of strange in a game that's primarily about space battles. And I don't really think that's the only feature that's missing. So I was on Twitter the other day, and I'll just quickly find it again. Here we are. I found a kind of a table which compared the two games. Star Wars Battlefront 2 from, 2006? I'm probably wrong about that. And the new Star Wars Battlefront, which is coming out in November, I believe. So, Star Wars Battlefront 2 had a total of 33 maps, 16 planets, and 4 DLC maps. And the number of maps so far confirmed for Battlefront, the new one, is 8. 8 maps and 4 planets, opposed to 33 and 16 planets. Now, I would like to stress that that is confirmed at this time, because the developer has been out and said, I will quote this, "Also, please stop with the reduced number of maps. We have more than 8 maps. How many have not been announced yet, but it's more than 8, is exactly what this guy said, and that was the Biking Viking, who is a developer at DICE. Now, I also read somewhere that he had said something along the lines of, we have 8 maps, that's a lot, and to be fair, in a Battlefield game, 8 maps is a lot. I presume most of them do come out of 8 maps, and then all the others are added on as additional content. And this is a guy that's saying, oh no, we're not holding anything back. So whether or not it's going to ship with 8 maps is yet to be seen. They hopefully will have a few more maps in the final release of the game, but 8 opposed to 33? Right, anyway, let's carry on with this table. So the number of players in Star Wars Battlefront could go up to 32 versus 32. And I believe there was actually more if you did a XL game mode, which took it up to like 300 players on the battlefield at once, I believe. That was, of course, offline, but nevertheless, it was still pretty hectic, and it made for some awesome battles. The new Battlefront has up to 20 versus 20, and some of the game modes have less than that. Okay, it's not too bad, I guess. So let's carry on. Space battles, Star Wars Battlefront, yes, and we've already talked about this. The new Star Wars Battlefront, no. is it moddable? This isn't really too much of a concern, to be honest, and I don't think they've really announced anything about this, so it doesn't really bother me. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was moddable, and the new Star Wars Battlefront isn't, I presume, but considering it is a multiplayer, primarily shooter, you don't want people modding it, so that's probably a good thing. I don't care about that one. DLC. The original Star Wars Battlefront 2 had one pack with 4 maps and 2 new heroes, and it's $5. Whereas Star Wars Battlefront has 5 planned DLC packs already before the game's released. And no doubt if they follow the suit of regular DLC for DICE games, what they're going to be like 15 quid each, so 15, 60, you're looking at about 75 quid, something like that, which is, it might get us back up to that 33 total maps, Anyway, let's carry on. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had a campaign. Star Wars Battlefront does not. The campaign was one of the most interesting parts, actually. It kind of gave you some context behind each of the maps. If you hadn't seen the films, it introduced you to the world a bit. It was nice. Galactic Conquest. Now, Galactic Conquest was actually one of my favourite things to do. It was kind of a turn-based strategy game where you would actually choose where to move your fleet and then go down to the planet's surface and fight for that planet. And if you win the planet, then you get the planet, and the enemy ships can try and take it from you, and you can have space battles. Really, really cool. The new game doesn't have that, which is probably future DLC. I'm going to have to come back to this, because me keeps saying, oh, it's going to be future DLC. There is a quote that I have from the same developer, actually. Who was it? The Viking. I'll get to that later. Instant action, also one of the best features of Star Wars Battlefront 2, won't be reappearing. So if you don't know what instant action is, it's literally you choose a map and you go for a war, basically. You have some AI to fight against. You used to be able to do it split screen. That's gone. That's not around anymore. So that's been replaced with missions, I believe, which, I don't know, what's that going to entail? If it's something like Spec Ops or that kind of rubbish, then I don't want it. I just want the big open maps with AI to shoot, and that's all I want, to be honest. They said there will be AI in the game, like enemy AI that you can fight against, and that will be in the mission mode, but I honestly can't see it being like instant action, which will be a shame. Okay, so this one's a bit more specific. Infantry types. So Star Wars Battlefront 2 had 51 playable types, consisting of 6 standard classes per faction, which makes 24 there, 8 unique faction classes, and 19 playable heroes. Now that spans across the entire prequel to Return of the Jedi era. So you had people from the first 3, which, not many people care about, and to be fair, I didn't play in that era very much, but it was nice that it was there. It gave you more variety if you were bored of shooting the Empire or the Rebels. It just gave the game more variety. So the new Battlefront has loadouts only, and 2 heroes. 2 heroes confirmed. I don't know whether it's confirmed that there's only going to be 2 heroes, but we'll have to wait and see for that. And the loadouts only thing, it takes away the class-based system, and I kind of like that. I'm not really sure whether they'll go down the Battlefield route where they have, say, a medic, an assault, a support, and a sniper. I don't know, or maybe they'll just be like more Call of Duty-esque, where you're just a character and you can take anything you want into battle, any combination of items. Either way, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It might be a nice thing to do, because I do like loadout systems personally, but whether that will translate well into the Star Wars universe, we'll have to see. Vehicle types. 37 controllable vehicles plus 15 controllable turrets in Star Wars Battlefront 2. And so far in the new Star Wars, none are confirmed playable, and it is confirmed that the AT-ATs, which, if you don't know your Star Wars lore, well, it's not really lore, is it? It's just basics. They're the big 4-legged walking camel things, AT-ATs. And they won't be playable in the new one. They were fully playable in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You could walk them around. Sure, they were really slow and clunky, and it was really hard to hit anything with them, but you could do it. It was something you could do. And there were also 5 other vehicles that are seen in the trailers. They have hinted at there being speeder bikes that you can actually pilot, and the AT-STs, which are the smaller 2-legged walking camels, which they don't really look like camels. They're more like ostriches, I guess, without a head. So hopefully they'll act like tanks and quad bikes, I guess. I just hope that there are some more. They also mentioned that there would be the ability to fly around the maps in kind of jet style from Battlefield. So you'd have like X-Wings and TIE Fighters and you just fly them around the map. And that's cool and everything. Okay, moving on. AI players. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had it, and they're only in one mode on the new one. We've already talked about that, so we don't need to go back to that. Playable eras, we've talked about this. Classic and Prequel in Battlefront 2, and just Classic in the new one, which I'm not too worried about because I've never really been too interested in the prequel era. And it's always been the Classic that's been my favourite, so if they just do more in depth into the Classic, that's fine with me, as long as there's enough content there to support it. And then finally we get onto the release date, which is November 2005 for Star Wars Battlefront 2 and November 2015 for Star Wars Battlefront. And that's a 10-year difference, and the differences in them 10 years is, whoa. So Star Wars Battlefront 2, it doesn't look like the worst game in the world. Like, yeah, sure, the graphics aren't fantastic compared to our standard today, and obviously the Star Wars Battlefront, the new one coming out, will have, obviously, up to par graphics, and it will look good. So, yeah, that's cool. But so far, from what we know about the game, there's so much missing, and it's just, I don't know where I stand on this game right now. Even down to facts like you can't drive the 8080s, which was in a 10-year-old game, which isn't in this new one. I'm like, okay, what else isn't going to be in there if that's one thing they've taken out? Now, perhaps there are other game modes, because the 8080 that wasn't pilotable was in a game mode where you had to take it down and prevent it from reaching the base. So perhaps that's one that's scripted and on rails. Maybe there is this game mode that's more akin to large-scale conquest game modes on, say, the planet Hoth, where they are playable and you can just use them as normal. Which I could see that happening maybe, and they just haven't announced it yet, but I kind of feel like if that is the case, and there's a lot of this stuff they haven't announced as being able to do in the game yet, then that's really hurting the game, because so many people are turning against it. And for some reason, EA doesn't want people talking about it, and it's really, really strange. Like, the lack of space battles in the game, I cannot fathom that. A lot of people have been saying, oh, they're not doing space battles because they're going to hold it back for DLC. This is EA after all. And I kind of believe that. Like, that was like the initial place I went to. I was like, no space battles? Well, DLC. First pack of DLC right there. And if that is the case, then that is a right arsehole move by EA. But as I said before, the Biking Viking, who is that developer from DICE, actually came out and stood against these people and said, no, please don't make me break what I can and cannot say. But if you think there's anything we're not including in the game to save it for DLC, I can tell you you're 100% wrong. In this project, I've never heard of anyone say, let's not do this for launch so we can do it for DLC instead, ever. Which is essentially him saying, oh no, we were never going to do space battles anyway. Which then makes me have the question, why were you never going to do space battles anyway? It's called Star Wars, and you're not going to let us fly around in the stars. Jeez, half of the major battles in the Star Wars universe took place in space. And that's just like half of the entire universe that they're just going to skip right over. Which, to be fair, it could be because they're scared of it, if you know what I mean. They've never done anything like that before. They've always been ground-focused, infantry combat. That's what they know. That's what they're good at. And maybe they are afraid that if they say, okay, let's do a space battle instead, they won't know what to do with it, and they'll get it wrong, and it will stop the game selling well. Perhaps that's the case. If that is the case, then grow some balls, or a vagina. Just toughen up. If it goes badly, it goes badly. But quite frankly, I doubt it would, because if you've nailed flying combat, now all you need to do is take away the ground underneath and turn the sky black. There you go. You're in space. I know it's not as easy as that, like, obviously it's not as easy as that, but I will honestly miss it. I was so looking forward to having these, like, really good-looking space battles, where you get to take down enemy ships, take down Star Destroyers, have dogfights with TIE Fighters and X-Wings. Oh, it would have been so beautiful, but alas, no, it will not be with the game on release. Now, the other little thing of controversy is that there is a DLC already announced for the game, which I believe is called the Battle of Jakku. That might be wrong, but essentially what it is it bridges the gap between Star Wars Battlefront's universe, so that's the Return of the Jedi, and Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So the Battle of Jakku is this space in between, which is essentially one of the biggest battles that ever took place in the Star Wars universe, which was pretty much the fall of the Empire, the last hurrah for them, if you want. And that is coming in December time as DLC for the new Star Wars Battlefront. Now, people were a bit annoyed about this, since, understandably, people don't like DLC being announced before the game is even released. Like, I personally hate this as well. I'm like, if you're already planning this DLC, why are you not planning to put it into the game? And I understand that maybe they haven't got time to do this, but at least just hold off to announce this until after the game is released. Like, I wouldn't mind as much, because then at least I wouldn't know from the get-go that when I get my new game, there could have been more in it. But whereas the Battle of Jakku, I'm a little bit different, because I understand why that is going to be DLC. And since it is going to be free, that just cements my opinion on it. Now, if it isn't obvious to you already, since the Battle of Jakku does bridge the gap between The Force Awakens and the old universe, they're not going to want that releasing in November when the Force Awakens movie comes out in December. It will be far too much in advance. It might give away some of the story details. So making the decision to release it as DLC and have it released closer to the movie's release date makes perfect sense to me, because in November you get your game and you get to catch up on A New Hope through to Return of the Jedi and all these massive battles that went on. Then at the very start of December, if you pre-order it, that's an important fact actually, if you pre-order the game you get it a week early. So at the start of December you get the bridge between The Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And then, I believe December 23rd, that's probably completely wrong, you get the movie. Which, it does make sense, to be honest. So, yeah, I've been rambling for quite a while now. I am going to wrap it up here. So, essentially, all that I've said in this is, I'm not sure my stance on Battlefront at the minute. I feel like there's a lot that's being held back, perhaps. They haven't announced everything, and hopefully that's the case. If the game stays as what we know so far, it is going to be awfully lacking in a lot of areas. But hopefully, as the Biking Viking guy said, he isn't allowed to announce everything at once. Like, there could be more maps, there could be more game modes that he just hasn't been able to tell us. And they're going to be released at a later date. We have to wait until November. It's quite a while away. So there's plenty of stuff that can come out in between. Hell, even E3 is coming up. So we might see some more really good stuff at E3. And it might completely change everyone's opinion of what the game's going to be like. So I just thought I'd have a little discussion about this. If you want to leave some comments in the comment section below, I will be sure to read them. And as long as they're constructive and have good arguments and that kind of thing, I will reply and have a conversation. Because this is something that I am really interested in. And I've always loved the Battlefront series. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that little discussion.
His name is Luke, and he's more than your average gamer. No ordinary let's player. Know about Easter eggs much better. Da 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 da. His name is Luke, aka TheRoyalGorilla. Even bigger than the giant Godzilla. Follow him in every game he goes. Da 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 da. He's almost got everything you need, from GTA 5 to